Shalom, and welcome to the Remnant Radio Show, in particular, the Alef Tav Remedy Show. This will be episode 2. And with that, mostly this all has to do with living and learning a restoration lifestyle. And I am here today again with my co-host, Carly. And Carly, I just have to make you come on the screen. There you go. There you go.
Shalom. Great to be here again.
And so how's the Texas weather?
Gorgeous. It's 75 degrees today. It's been like that all week.
That's awesome. We got like another almost foot of snow and just freezing. But
oh, yeah. Some days I miss it, but most days not.
Yeah. I miss Northwest Montana weather, but they've been really warm this year. So anyway.
Ooh, interesting.
Okay. So today we're basically going to be talking about and introducing the tools or applications of the Alef Tav body system. And for those of you who do not know what that is, I encourage you to go to remnantremedy.com and click on the Pure Shimon link and type in book, and Dr. Monzo's book will come up. I will put all the links in the notes for when we post it to the Rumble channel on Remnant Remedy. And a lot of these tools, probably most of these tools, can be bought through Remnant Remedy. For those of you who do or don't know, I am a separate ministry and practitioner from Dr. Monzo and his clinic, Wellbeing by Design, but I'm also the practitioner and quantum aromatherapist at the clinic. So I have 2 different modes, and I work with Dr. Monzo and have been training with him for several years. And I do the frequency, Alef Tav, essential oils, basically. And I also do quantum aromatherapy, which we will talk about that later. And so over the last 3 or 4 years, especially since 2019, I think the book came out in 2020, the Alef Tav book, we have trained over 200, I think, or close to 200 practitioners. And Carly here is one of them. And she did the training a year ago in November while I was in Jordan. That was one of the only 2 classes I've missed.
Yeah.
And so that was awesome. And you did the training in Ohio. And Dr. Monzo has sold somewhere between 3,000 to 5,000 books. So, now there's more and more practitioners, but I would say the majority of them are people who are just trying to restore and learn these tools for their family, for their health. It's great amongst the homeschooling community. And, we are basically, the main thing is, in the past, anybody that's followed me for the last 15, 20, 30 years, is I'm all about creating and planning and preparing especially moms, to have a remnant remedy chest. And back in the old days, before 2020, that included predominantly essential oils and herbs, and some other supplements or tools that were really important, so that you were prepared to avoid Pharaoh's system and save a lot of money and learn how to restore the care for your family. And so now, though, many of us are just now catching on. Some of us have caught on a lot longer, mostly because we suffered from it. But since at least 2020, I mean, it was really before 2020, I'd say 2000s, 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can talk to a lot of us older people who use herbs and oils, right? And we started noticing that those things weren't working right, just like they used to. We had to change it up, and we had to really get more in gear. We couldn't just depend on what always happened before. Well, meanwhile, we don't realize, or some of us do, but we were crazy back then. We got chemtrails, we've got energy, we got all these energetics that changes with Wi-Fi and 5G. I watched it I used to drive from Northwest Montana to Florida. And if you came from Northwest Montana and you went, so basically you got Kalispell, Missoula, and then you go Butte, Bozeman, Billings, right? I remembered alphabetically, Billings, Bozeman, Butte, and then you go up. Well, you used to, and this was like 2007, at least, you could drive, and the only time you would get phone service was when you were in one of those major cities.
Oh, yeah.
Now, because of my background in telecommunications, I tracked and paid attention to these things, and I've been talking and teaching at Sukkots and events ever like early 2000s about how you need to protect yourself from your phone and what's going on. And today, of course, it's all over the place. But the thing is you could drive, I think it's 3,500 miles from Northwest Montana on the Canadian-Idaho border all the way back to Central Florida. And I noticed one year that it changed to there were towers every 20 miles. To a couple more trips, a couple of years later, to less than 5, and so on. And there's a story where one time my mother thought I was crazy, of course, and she was having these pains, right? I know today now, flash forward, that has a lot to do with the unbound iron that we'll talk about a lot in between what we're saying and doing in the root cause protocol, which I won't talk about that too much, but it's causing pain. And so when you get near those towers and you're getting the direct energy hit, and that's not the only thing we have to worry about, but she would have these pains, and I would tell her it's the towers, and I would have pain. And that's one of the ways I knew there was a tower. All I had to do was look. And so I told her on this one trip, I said, all the way there, I counted and watched her do it. And on the way back, halfway, when we get hit about Wyoming or so, I told her, I said, I'm telling you, it's the towers, because I would keep pointing them out to her on the trip. And so I said, hey, just cover yourself in foil, right? So we
foil hat club.
Yeah, so we stopped at, I wanted to say it was Buffalo, Wyoming, actually, somewhere around there. Beautiful town. And we got aluminum foil, and she made gloves of aluminum. She made a hat of aluminum. She covered her legs where she was getting the pain. And sure enough, she wasn't getting any more pain. And it was hilarious because she's in the front passenger seat and we're driving, and the truckers are looking at my mother covered in foil. It was hilarious.
Oh my goodness!
But it worked, right?
It does. It's true. So you're a OG member of the tinfoil hat club, Lisa.
Yeah, actually, there was a time when I hope he doesn't mind me telling on him. Dr. Monzo was doing some shows, and somebody, I think it was a phone message or an email, sent him a message telling him, basically mocking him about wearing a tinfoil hat. So we created a tinfoil hat for him and brought it into the office. So anyway,
yeah.
But
I mean, people that are highly EMF sensitive have a lot of, like you said, unbound iron and heavy metals. So you got to get that out.
Right. And it has drastically gotten better and increased as far as health-wise by following that. And we won't go into that today. We covered a little bit last week in episode 1. So if you want to follow that, but today we're going to go into the tools, the different applications of the Alef Tav body system. So let me see if I can share the screen here and figure out how to get it all good and up here. So this is just, you can join us we have a Telegram group. If you need that, contact me. It's kind of hard to find, I think. We have 2 different groups. Don't ask me why. I don't know how to run it other than I post. And then if you want to respond, you have to join the chat to that thing at the same time. So Remnant Remedy is our main site, but most people only know about pureshaman.com because that's where most of our products are. And then there's a lot of things that I do that I never put on the website. You just have to contact me. And we have Remnant Remedy International, which is part of where we're going to be putting our information on health ministries, but I obviously need to finish the website. And we're trying to raise money, which is where I met you, was when I was in Jordan. And we talked a little bit about that story last week on how to stop bleeding, et cetera, and how people from the Arabic, especially the Christians that are going through a lot of tribulation, we'll say that, and Spanish people, which now we have believers, especially in Cuba, Venezuela, Mexico, going through some really major stuff. And it would be really nice for them to know how to stop bleeding with the emergency applications from the back of the book.
And or heart issues or anaphylaxis,
strokes, right? Burns, even help in birth, which we're going to actually get to use those hopefully in the next around April 10th when our grandbaby comes. So, yeah, we're planning on a home birth, Father willing, and my last baby who was born in a pool is having a baby, so I'm excited.
That is exciting. That's funny because I will actually be at a birth the first 2 weeks of April as well. One of our dear friends, home birth,
cool.
of course.
Now I didn't realize till Courtney told me that you do. Is it doula or midwife work?
A little bit of both. Yeah, I'm a midwife assistant, and so I've done a lot of midwife assisting and just attending births whenever I can, and then I do doula work as well. Okay. My least favorite place to attend births is in the hospital.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So while you're at that, because I didn't know that. I mean, I know you did other things, but why don't you share your website and information?
Yeah, you can find me at ancientpathswellness.org. So all one word, ancientpathswellness.org. And just like you, Nita, there's a lot that I do on the side that's not listed on the website. The website's just kind of our basic biofeedback and wellness and Alef Tav body services. But just contact me. I have a little offshoot of that called Beautiful Birth, where I do birth coaching, doula work, nice. And birth assisting.
So do you teach classes too?
I have, not regularly, just as needed, but I have taught birth classes. Yeah.
All right, cool.
And I have a really great video on my YouTube channel. You can look it up. Ancient Paths 23 is my YouTube channel. It has like the little circular, our little logo, Ancient Paths. I interviewed my friend who had her baby at home breech, and she had a supernatural birth. She talks all about what happened and just, how the Holy Spirit showed up. So check that out. It's called Supernatural Birthing, if anybody's interested. Ooh, and it's just encouragement for anybody that's birthing or even had a birth that they want to bring in prayer to be redeemed. It's great encouragement.
Well, and we'll try to share that, and we'll put a bunch of links in there. How far out in your area, because you're in the San Angelo, Abilene area, how far out do you do help with deliveries?
It just really depends, case by case basis. Usually within an hour or so within my area, but a lot of people live remotely on ranches out here, so I've traveled within a 2.5 hour range. This particular birth is a dear friend of mine, and it's actually her daughter, but she's also a great friend of mine as well. She was at the birth of my 5th baby, and so it's going to be in Arkansas. So I'm just going to stay with her in Arkansas for 2 weeks, and so once in a while I've done that. My friend that you spoke to on the phone last night, I was at her birth, and so I just stayed with her for a week. And that's awesome. Any opportunity I have to be a part of birth and the way Yah designed it to be, I try to take it if I can.
Have you ever read the book, what's it called, Birth in Zion?
No, sounds amazing.
Oh man, you can't. It's not in print anymore, but it's amazing. We'll have to cover that. Maybe we'll do a whole thing just on birth. Yeah. One thing I just really want to say about that is, we have to change our mindset. And a lot of people have had paradigm shifts and understand that most things that we've been taught about birth and things in general are not true. And a lot of it is based on fear and the fact that being pregnant is, a sickness, etc. And, just like anything, not just birth, but and like it is in a lot of other countries that don't have other choices and crutches per se, is that Father comes through in miraculous situations and ways that we would say there's just no way. Just no way. In fact, I was checking out buying things for the baby shower this last week. And the lady goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm getting ready for a baby shower. My 10th grandbaby is going to be born, hopefully at home." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, isn't that painful? Isn't that like whatever?" And I'm like, "Why wouldn't you do it in a hospital?" And I said, "Look, I feel safer in the middle of the desert with no one but Yahweh to have a baby, because I know and have seen and have experienced everything that can go wrong." And I see that over and over with women who, man, if they just would have walked in that faith and place, Father could have done so much for them. And now they have to pay the consequences. And we've all been there, right? We've all done and did the things that we were trained and brainwashed into doing. And we have paid the consequences. And most of us in the natural health field is exactly why we're here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and there's no room for fear. There's no room for fear. And unfortunately, Pharaoh's system, as you call it, is all about fear. I mean, the things they suggest and push on you out of fear, you know, having experienced 6 natural home births, it's like, this is completely unnecessary, completely unnecessary. So I think in everything we're going to talk about today, that's a great point to bring up is, you know, emotions really are a big part of not just healing, but the Alef Tav body. And
Yes.
I was talking to my friend Courtney about this yesterday, and she uses this regularly with her family. And she said, you know, most of the time I notice my emotions change first before the physical symptoms disappear. I feel better, that whatever that emotion was on top of it, or really, I would say the root of it, starts to dissolve, and then the physical symptoms disappear. And I talk about that a lot with my clients and on my channel, just that emotions really are a big root cause when it comes to health. So it's interesting as we go through these Alef Tav points and these different things that can help people stay well, that there's usually a root emotion cause. And, you know, like we were just saying, in birth, it's fear. You have to avoid that fear.
And, you know, emotion is energy in motion. And so all through the Alef Tav body system, which is based on the Alef Tav, which we'll spend a whole show just looking at that in Genesis 1 through 3, is that the Alef Tav body system addresses the body, the spirit, and the emotions. And so soul, nephesh, you know, it addresses all the different avenues that we need. And sometimes, almost in every one of these modalities, I have seen some incredible releases, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, etc. So, yeah. Okay. Well, for those of you who have the book, right, there is the big book. And I'll put the link where you can get that big book on our website. Here's the big book. Okay. It's basically, you know, if this book was sold in the academic, secular training world, this book would be $300 to $500 easy. Okay. It is $125. A lot of people think that's expensive, but
Totally worth it.
You spend at least that much on a good Bible.
Yeah. Or a college textbook.
Right.
And way more valuable.
This is heavy with heavy paper with full color, etc. And there is a PDF version. Okay. So the problem is, and I highly recommend that you get both.
Yes.
But you know, if you say, hey, I can't swing that right now, get the PDF version, and that you can follow that link. But this is 400 pages, right? This is like a big Bible, and you're going to be using it as a reference book. And you know how you can study scripture topic by topic, layer by layer. You're going to be doing that forever with this book. The PDF is 200 pages, give or take. So it's half the amount of the book, but it has the ability for you to just zero right into the touch modality of ATB. And so we're going to, when we talk about the different applications or the different modalities, today I'm going to try to give a brief, and still get through them, brief overview of each thing, right? But
yeah,
we could spend a long time on each one of them, and hopefully we'll come back and expand on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like the full book is an education on this biblical method of healing.
Yes.
Whereas that PDF is like your first aid kit, where clients will text me and say, I'm having sciatic pain. I sciatic, and I get the application, just a short version that I can screenshot and send to them. So yeah, so that PDF is like my first aid kit, and then my full book is more like my full training and teaching.
Right. Absolutely. And you know, there have been times when we have a practitioner friend who is in my class, which was the second class in 2022. And you know, the next year, I think it was, they were traveling. They used to live in Texas, and they live in Oklahoma now. And they were traveling back and forth, and they had their trailer on the back of their truck, and they looked up and their trailer was on fire.
Oh my.
So she lost her ATB tools. She had her, you know, her oils, her book, everything in the fire. So what we did was, you know, we took the ATB PDF file, the ebook, took shots of the different pictures for her so that they could do applications for a burn, because when her husband went in, he had to deal with burns applications. And so oftentimes in the practitioner group, you know, not everybody's got their book on them and handy. So I highly recommend at least getting the PDF, have it on your phone, have it on your computer, so that you can look those up, maybe just for yourself when you need it as an emergency, or for somebody else that might be in need. So absolutely. Absolutely. And it might not for some people be as overwhelming as picking up that big book, right?
Yes.
So
I tell people just start by memorizing the points. If you can
right,
memorize where each of them are, like Simon says, right?
right,
Then you
right.
you have enough to kind of be dangerous, so to speak, in knowing how to work on yourself and bring healing to your body.
Yeah, let me see if I can bring that up. Um, I don't know why some things that show up or not. I wanted to show that page of the book, but it's not like exactly coming over. But anyway, yeah, we'll go into that later. But in the book, especially the big book. Now, what I noticed in the PDF is it's not color coded. Okay, in the big book, it's color coded and it's divided by cycles, etc. And that's really important. If you can go through and I'm looking for I have the handheld chart all the time, but anyway, if you go through the color chart on the flip side, which is in the book, I don't know which page number right now, but if you'll take that and memorize the order of the colors, yellow, orange, green, blue, red, purple, white, right? And look and say, okay, yellow is, memorize that order, memorize that yellow is, I memorize it primarily by emotion, which is anxiety. And then I look at, and I try to memorize the organs that are in that system that also correspond and resonate to that. And then I go, okay, the first one is yellow and it has body points 1 through 4. 2 is orange, which is body points 5 through 15. And if you'll try to memorize where they are, at least memorize those 1 through 4 and 1 and 5 through 15. But that's how I suggest you memorize it. So now you're repeating over and over yellow, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the points. Because later, when you're reading the book or you're doing something, if I say green, you go, oh, that's cycle 3.
Right.
If I say LFM 16, body point or Ein 16, you know that's green and it's in cycle 3. And that will help you with your tools. It will also help you with things that were made, and we're going to talk about a few tools that were not made specifically for the Alef Tav body system, but they do address the Alef Tav body system. You just have to know how to translate it and you'll just recognize it, you know? Right. So you go, oh, that's cycle 1, that's cycle 3. You can even use this in the application of people, you know, oh, wow, that person really operates out of cycle 3, which is anger and frustration, right?
Yeah.
And so then you start going, oh, and you look at the correlations to, you know, what are their health issues? You know, it usually corresponds directly with that. So
yeah, fear, cycle 4, you see a lot of like nervous tension or like sciatica problems. A lot
fear,
of related to fear. So,
which is your
very
kidneys,
interesting.
Your kidneys and adrenals, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're just gonna go through. This is taken out of the big book. I don't think it's in the small book. I don't have the small book printed. I just have to look at it. When I scan through it, I don't see that. So this is taken out of the big book. And this is on, you know, the section of the book that we talk about. We call them LFMs. See, we got life, formation, messenger. I will often refer to it as body point. Okay. So cycle 1, because we're made like a rainbow, and we could spend 20 minutes just talking about how we're made like a rainbow. You know, most people may be coming from a point of view, it's like, oh, I got 7 chakras. Well, you have 7 energy points. Dr. Manzo takes a lot of that kind of stuff and tweaks it, makes it more biblical, more scientific.
Right, because it's all right there.
Right.
And we're made like this is how the body functions. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And yeah, it's just it's a physical science hub. And in the physical, you know, medical field, in some of the trainings they wouldn't call it any of this, but they would call it the biophoton field. Right. That's just their scientific word.
Yeah.
You know, Arnold Horshack, which you are too young to know who that is, from Welcome Back, Kotter, would have said it's your aura.
Oh yeah.
Which who's the famous actor? I can't think of his name. He did Saturday Night Live. Anyway, he was in that TV series. Anyway, so, but if you say aura, right, it really upsets people. And yet the word in Hebrew for light is or.
Order. Yep.
You know, so it's light and order. So anyway, so yeah, we have this body. And so you'll often hear me say cycle or CLM for cycle, life, manifestation, or messenger. Then we have LFMs, which is life formation messenger, or I just simply call them body points. So cycle 1 is yellow, grief. You know, it has this associated organs, even has associated minerals and stuff that you need for the body system to support those organs. And it has body points 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's really easy to start. And so what we're looking here from the book on the first page, because each LFM has the same information in the sense that there are at least 7 applications that you can use to bring order and balance of energy and health to that part of the body, and or what that part of the body serves in its cycle, right? So yeah, there's a lot of foundation here, which is going to make sense for people who have taken the class or read the book. And some of it, even if they have, it's like, how do you put those pieces together? But so cycle 1, excuse me, LFM1. LF1 is in cycle 1. And the location on it is on the inside of the knee, which is the prime mover. So that's one of the meanings of Aleph, you know, and it's marked on the body and it's measured in terahertz. I think a lot of people, especially those who attack us and Dr. Monzo, don't realize that this is actually bioelectrical energy that is measured in the body. It's not what you think it is, because
we're not making this up.
Yeah, you're just
lacking. Been able to measure the energetic output, and it matches the numerical value of each letter, which is incredible.
Yeah. And not just the value, but its form, function, and design, right? Yeah. And so that's really, it's amazing when you start seeing it. If you don't see it, you don't have that background, then you think it's total nonsense. But you know, that's okay. You'll get there one day. So that's what we're looking in LFM1, and it's called the prime mover. And you know, actually, if you're not moving this part of your body, then you're going to have health issues, right? Your calf is like the second pump, as strong as, or I should say, the second prime. It's a secondary pump as compared to the heart. So if you're not moving that area, then you're not getting the circulation, lymphatic flow, et cetera, that you need. But so this is just showing that to you. I'm showing you, look at this. It's in the book. Every one of the LFMs will say at the top first page for each LFM, it'll say, here's the applications. They're basically all the same. Of course, since the book was written and done, we have found tools and tested tools that we've added to that. And that's kind of what we're going to introduce today. So number 1 is the hands. And I'm going to go to the next page because it just helps me expand a little bit. So ATB touch is the number 1 modality. We have a negative on our left side and a positive on our right side. And this is all can be measured. So I'll try not to go into that all the time, but I feel like I have to tell people that, right? We have energy positive that comes down the front. We have energy that goes back up the back, and it's all part of the toroidal field, the way we were created. And so the main focus, the main application that is free is to use your hands. And so by understanding and learning the Alef Tav body system, you are, what's the word? You're a living stone, literally. You're a house of light. And that's the way you were created, and it's free. And yes, we can lay hands on people, and the Father can heal people, but we can also learn the art of laying on of hands and understanding that if we do them in certain ways, we can get certain results. Like, for instance, stopping bleeding. If someone is bleeding, we take the positive hand, which is the right hand, we apply it to the body, and then we put the left hand, okay? That will stop bleeding. The more people that can do it, the better. And we've had so many testimonies, you know, not just mine that I've seen and done in Jordan and the mission field or whatever, but it even, you know, it just works. Now, if you have something that needs to come out, like a splinter or venom or a bite, or, you know, you got a bee sting or something, okay? Then you put your left hand first, because now the energy is reversing in the body.
Yep. Left to leave. You're drawing it out.
Right. So we remember that by right to remain, our blood has the right to remain in the body, and left, right, to leave. And I noticed some people really mocked Dr. Monzo a year or two ago. And, they really think that you should have a tourniquet. Well, I'm not saying, and we're not saying you shouldn't have a tourniquet. But if I'm bleeding, I have a bloody nose at the top of my head, or something is bleeding, I don't want a tourniquet on my neck.
Right.
Okay. So, I just wish we would use common sense and come together. And anyway, so I will tell you this: when I met Dr. Monzo in 2019, before the book was published, while he was writing and teaching some of these things. I met him again in 2021, and then 2022 we moved out here to be near him and learn more and train. And when I got to the class, now understand, for almost 2-3 years, I had been formulating the frequencies to resonate with each of these cycles and these body points. And so I was reading all parts of the book, but I missed the core of it, and it was touch. So when I got to class, I was really in shock, just like really in shock. Okay. So I just want to say it really is the core part of it, and it's free. There's no need for any tools, right?
It gave us our hands, the laying on of hands, like you said.
Yeah. And so, that's really important. And that when Dr. Monzo does his introduction class, right? So he's got a class planned in Montana, right? Coinciding with the retreat that I'm doing in Hungry Horse, which is just outside of Kalispell, Montana, in May.
It looks beautiful.
And then he'll have another class. They usually do them in Ohio. Sometimes we do them out of state. But they're going to do the introduction ATV class. And that's where you spend. Now you spend Sunday to Thursday in hands-on practice, but you spend, I think you need, I forget, 20-30 hours of video online training. And you can take just the online training and decide later to attend a class in person, because that's really where you learn. You can do the online training portion of it, and he has some meetings with you too online, but it's when you're applying your hands and you're feeling and experiencing that energy and what's going through, that you're like, whoa. And there are sometimes there's deliverance just by putting your hands on people. And we're not calling on angels or demons or anything else. We're just using the energy in the body. I don't think we've ever had anybody to attend class who's not a believer in Yeshua the Messiah or Jesus. They could be Torah, they could not, but and then we get doctors, massage therapists, we get all kinds of people, and we just get regular household people, or people who are been ill and have found that the tools and things that Dr. Monzo teaches or does, or they've been to the clinic for an intensive or whatever, they find it works, right? It's helping them. Yeah. Especially if you're suffering from, well, we won't have enough time to talk about it all today, but the weaponized tools that are used against us, right? Yes. And that is a big, huge component that most people are suffering from. Everybody has them, whether they realize it or not. Yep. And they need help, right? Yep. And so these are part of those tools. So just to say real quick, ATV touch is huge as part of the class. You don't have to go to the class. We've had a few people who really catch on. But I want to tell you, if you own the book, if you own the big book, and you want to connect with a group on the band app, a band platform, is that what you call it? I can connect you to a group there. When you have been to the class, we also connect you to Dr. Monzo's group for questions for practitioners, but you don't have to have a practice to do that. You just have gone through the course so you understand, because we're not going to spend all the time explaining basics of health. When what we're really trying to do is understand ATV and how to apply it. So
and can I just say this quickly about the laying on of hands? It's very instinctual. I tell people all the time, when you have pain, what do? You usually If you're tired, if you're weary, if you're not feeling well, you usually put your head on your hands. Well, that we'll talk about it, I'm sure, in other episodes, but that's
Oh,
your
yeah.
range, right? That's your pain center. Usually
Yeah.
when we have pain in our stomach, what do? We put our hand on our stomach. And so this is the way that Yah made our body. We instinctually put our hands somewhere where it's hurting.
Right.
If someone's hurting, even emotionally suffering a loss, we put our hands on them in comfort. That's by design, and science is proving now, the glory of our Elohim, that this is how we're made to heal, and that's with the laying on of hands. So yeah, very
Right. Well, I believe even when you start applying this to your children and their thumb sucking or their finger sucking, they're actually self-medicating to that cycle. So if you can just get that, like, oh, they're doing their thumb. Well, that's first cycle. They're doing, I used to do my second and third cycle, right? Or third and fourth. Anyway, it's like, oh, so, I mean, you'll start seeing, I saw one autistic child. He was always squatting and putting his hands right up underneath his hiney, where the leg meets the hiney. And I can't remember the number at this moment, but that was self-application.
The final noon. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, absolutely. Okay, the second one, and we don't spend a lot of time talking about this, but I have been building and working on. I would like to do a book, but we could do a series of teaching. But really and truly, we always kind of put this last, and all of us people who are doing this and practitioners, we don't really talk about it a lot. But I always point out, especially when I do bioscans with my clients, I'm like, don't ever underestimate what's in the book, which is on the right side of every LFM. There's the left side, there's 4 pages for each LFM. And on the bottom of the right side, you'll see these verses in scripture. Okay. What I want to say is what you think is electromagnetic energy. And it either is good and healthy for the body or it's not. Yeah. And I want to challenge you to go to my Rumble channel and watch the video I did called Battle of the Living Stones. And that is when I discovered that everything, in my opinion, breaking down the pictograph language was actually created from Elohim Alef Tav using that electromagnetic energy of thought. It wasn't until Genesis, when he told chapter 8, and so the word is amar, I say amar. That word in Hebrew, that was like the download communication back and forth from Yahweh to Adam and Eve, and Adam and Eve to people. And when he talked to Noah, but when he told him to get off that ark in chapter 8, he now introduces the word DaBaR. And for years I taught, the word of God in Hebrew is DaBaR. Well, guess what? It's also amar, and it has to do, and we'll get into that. But I challenge you to listen to that, because it will really get you to see and understand how important it is of what we think. So when we read scripture and when we pray, we are doing energetic restoration.
Right.
We try not to use the healing word because, only there are people out there who think that's illegal, and they will get you. But
so I think that it's weird to be able to communicate through thought.
Yeah,
but that's what our Messiah modeled when he knew their thoughts.
Right.
And it's also absolutely. We're sending thoughts from our mind to the mind of, Yahuwah, and back and forth. And so this is how we're meant to communicate.
Yep.
And
and that's a lot of ways how he talks to. That's why most of us don't say, "Oh, I heard the audible voice," right? They'll say, "I saw it, I thought it, I had a download." I get a lot of words of knowledge. I just see the word, and it's just downloaded. So anyway, yeah, we can go, like I said, we can go into all of that, and we will be doing hopefully some shows on that kind of stuff. So all I'm saying is, for every LFM, there is scripture in the book, in the big book, that you really should take the time, because you're probably saying, well, I want the essential oil, or I want the patch, or I want this, this tool, this sound, whatever. And it's like, don't bypass the other free thing, that is really probably the most important thing, is when you renew your mind, when you renew your thoughts, when your thoughts are on him, and he's changing you and healing you from the inside out, which will affect your spiritual, emotional, and physical self. So
Yes.
That's really important. And then the other part of that is your lifestyle. Now, I know many people who will watch that probably are not Torah keepers. You know, there might be Christians. They think we're walking in legalism, whatever. But it's like, wait a minute, I'm free to walk in those commandments. Okay. And those commandments, if we look at them from a positive point of view, you know, if it says thou shalt not commit adultery, then I'm free to live in a community of believers who won't be busy stealing my husband, right?
Right.
There's a positive to all of that. You know, thou shalt not, you know, basically steal or murder. Well, that means I have the freedom to live in the freedom of that, and I get that choice, right? And most believers, they think they need to obey the basic 10, but not the Sabbath, or you know what I mean? It's just,
or number 9, not slandering. We need to get a hold of that one too.
Right. And so it's kind of like the lifestyle. And what they don't understand is Torah isn't about a set of rules. It is about hitting the mark, not coming outside, like, you know, stay within the fence, but don't ride the side of the fence as much as you can so you get hit by the barbed wire, right? It's about the instructions that will give you life. And since he designed us, he knows what and the rules are to tell us, to bring us life. And the more we walk in that, you know, I remember one time I had a Christian ask me, what do you think about pork? It has a really bad frequency. They were coming from a science background. I'm like, yeah, I never thought of it that way, but I bet it does, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we could just go into that, but we won't. We're going to try to get through this quickly. I only got 15 minutes left. So, and then we'll come back later and we'll go into detail. Okay. ATB patch. Now, a lot of you have gotten the book and who have had this book don't realize probably that in the last month, finally, we have the ATB patches, and they come in positive and negative. They come in a box, but I don't know if I could do this, but I took mine out and put them in a little mini essential oil thing or just a little mini pack. So that's easier to zip and carry around with me. And we use the tape. And again, I'll post the link. You can listen to the video. And if you make the purchase, I will send you the PDF. But that's also all on the box when you get it. There's a QR code for you to go to the video and to the instructions. This is a tool to be used with the ATB touch or instead of the ATB touch, because especially if you're doing it to yourself, sometimes that's difficult. And so there's 3 different ways to use the patches, and we won't go into those much more than that, but understand that they're there and people have been waiting on them for several years. And unless you're signed up for the newsletter with Dr. Monzo, you probably wouldn't even know that. And again, we can get you those. Okay, the next one is essential oils. Now, I could spend hours and hours on this because this is my part of ATB. This is what I do for Dr. Monzo. There is for every cycle a certain frequency of botanicals that administer to the organs and the emotions, etc., in that cycle. And then there's the cycle, and a lot of people initially will buy the cycle set, which is 7 cycles, because when they use the 7 cycles, they are ministering to the individual body points in unison with the whole cycle. I also do the LFM, or the Pacific Body Point. So like for me, a lot of times I needed LFM 16, which is the Ein, which is actually your eye. And it's on the bottom of your ankle on the outside of your foot. And so I would use that directly. There's different ways to use it. You smell it or apply it to that actual application. And I may or may not layer it with cycle 3 to bring it all into unison. And then I get into quantum aromatherapy, where we specifically scan you and your body, your DNA. We do all this remote. We can do it in person, but most of it's remote, because the old way we used to do it is you had to be here in person to smell 84 oils, right? Now we have like 142 that we've energetically got onto the bioscan, and then your body is scanned for that, and it shows us what your body's resonating. And then from that, I can do a mini health analysis from that, and then create a blend specific to what your body needs to bring it into resonance. And one of the main reasons is you can use all of these tools or some of these tools. The main one, the crux of it, although I'm the person who uses probably most all of them except for the touch because of my working situation, what I'm doing, is that, what was I going to say? The reason we apply or add these extra tools is because when we're working on bringing these, and you learn this in the course. So when you're working on the body, and this is in the book, you're waiting till both sides of whatever applications you're doing, those body points are in sync, pulsing at the same time. That's when you know the energy flowing from the negative to the positive, the back and forth is balanced. So when we use these tools, it's just a way to get everything to come into balance faster.
Mm-hmm. To be communicating and resonating. So communicating and being, in unison, in perfect harmony. And that's what we want for life with everything, right? With our creator, with each other. It's a beautiful picture of how we're designed.
So you could do a long application on yourself or somebody else, or just, doing your LFM force, which is right at the base of your brain at the back. Sometimes this is great for a headache. This helps a lot sometimes, or a neck ache. And you just hold that. And, usually if you're doing just one point and not a protocol, I would say, you're going to sit there, you're going to hold it. I would say at least 5 minutes, but ideally you want to hold it till you feel the pulse on both sides, and they're doing it at the same time. And usually by that time the headache's gone because you've opened that pathway. If it makes it worse, that means you're going to have to go to a higher or lower one, because the energy is blocked somewhere else. The life of the blood is blocked energetically in one of those places. And sometimes you'll go like, I don't feel anything. Well, just hang in there, because it will come. It just takes time.
Yeah. And people usually aren't patient. They want a quick fix. But what you're saying is these tools like the patches, obviously a healthy lifestyle, and the essential oils, and I'm sure what else you're going to talk about, they can help that process.
Right. So if you're doing a long protocol, which is great when you have somebody doing a protocol, you're doing it on somebody or somebody's to you, you might have to wait 20 minutes to an hour to go through those long protocols. But if you start adding, say, the patches or the oils or the tuning forks or the laser light and some of those other tools, we find, oh my gosh, we can get through that protocol in 5 minutes. And the body's balancing faster. And if you think about it, all we're doing is we're bringing support to that same resonance to open those pathways so that the cells and the energy in the body, basically, that's what we're waiting for. Like you said, we're waiting for it to communicate back and forth, right? So anyway, okay, the next one, sorry about that. Okay, so the next one is the energetic imprint. Now, there's different ways to get the energetic imprint. When I do a wellness scan, a Quest 4 bioscan, it goes through, basically says what's out of balance in the body, what are the 4 to 7 major root causes that the body wants to deal with first, what's the best thing and how to respond to that. And there's pages and pages of this information that goes through. And then we say, okay, the machine, the device basically says, okay, here's the positive energy. Everything's negative and positive. That's the way creation was made. And, there's the bad part too. Basically evil is taking anything good that Yahweh created and misusing it. Wrong form, wrong function, wrong purpose. Yep. And so it's about bringing that into balance. And we can do a wellness. And so what we do from that is we imprint the balancing energy to what is off balance into that imprint spray. And it's really hard to get across to people how important that imprint spray really is to you. A lot of people will take the supplements or the oils, but don't take the imprint spray like they should. And the simple way, trying to get through this really fast, just an introduction, is you have most everybody has a computer, right? Or even a cell phone. That's your physical hardware. Your body, you have a physical hardware. Okay. The instructions, though, the software has to be there or it's not going to function right. Mm-hmm. You can look at software as the spirit, however you want to dice that. People get upset about different things about it, but here's the bottom line. You have to have the software. You have to have the instructions and energy from Elohim to get your body to work the way it needs to get. And what we're dealing with today is all kinds of things that stop and block and bring chaos to our cells, to what Elohim created. So that's one way of thinking about it. And so the energetic imprint, if we put it in a spray bottle with a certain medium, that comes to you. It's like kind of like homeopathy, right? You put it on your tongue. Another way we can do that is through the laser. We can create a vial, and we have vials that do different things, energetically sending instructions like to counter shedding and transmission of we have magnetic cards now. You know how you got information on your credit card? Now we can imprint to a card, and you can carry that card, put it under your pillow. A lot of people don't want to hear this, but you can imprint stones, minerals, and most EMF devices have, what's the word?
Quartz.
Yeah, they have quartz or minerals, and they might, even the patches have, to hold that frequency, you need the minerals, basically. The different living stones, if you want to call it that way. You have to have that to imprint it in there. But the difference is when we're using those things, it's not consumable. When we use the spray and put it in the water, that's consumable. The next thing, I'm down to 4 minutes, is light, right? So we can use the laser light. So we have a home kit, and there's a current restore, which is that's when you're advanced and you want to deal with that. But the home laser kit, we can go into that. We'll go through each one of these in future shows. Then there's sounds. So we can use tuning forks. We can use just certain terahertz or hertz of music. We got
tuned to the right frequency. Yeah.
So those, and again, we'll go into this where it's all in creation in Genesis 1:1-3. We're using electromagnetism, light, and sound, which is exactly what the enemy's using against you to cause dis-ease and disharmony. And Father has given us the remedy, and in creation, he made that remedy in that order to bring back balance. And then the other one is the energetic tools, and some of them are the P90, the Vibe, the ship device. And I want to go into those. There's a lot of PEMFs and different devices out there. We use these for different reasons. I just say this really quick. The P90, we can't advertise it and put it out there, and the company makes it may or may not even know that because they don't know ATB. We use that not only for microcirculation, all these different PMF, basically are the energies. They're the energies that minister to our LFMs, but people don't realize that, right? And it helps
creation. Yeah.
It helps eliminate weaponized pathogens. And so once you get into ATB or you've had a scan, you'll know what those are. The shift device actually makes your biophoton field, puts your electromagnetism field back together. It actually fries nanotech. We'll go into that.
Very cool. Yeah.
And the sauna, the infrared lights, a lot of people are getting those, and they're getting PMF tools, and they're asking about them. But the bottom line is this: most of them out there are creating worse EMFs, or you might feel better initially, but long-term it's worse. And the sauna space, if you pay attention, yes, it's more expensive, but they're building a Faraday cage so that you don't have those issues in that way. And then the next,
buyer beware when it comes to Amazon. People are just buying this stuff on Amazon, and you don't know how it's made. It's just a gimmick, basically.
Yeah. And so anything that, I would say, or, when you ask me, it's like, I may or may not know about it because I can't spend all my time knowing all these different devices, but I'll either will have seen or heard Dr. Monzo, or we look at it and we go, has he tested it? Because we're not using it if he hasn't tested it to look for the weaponized pathogens and the nanotech and all the different bad things that are happening. So anyway, I can't get to the questions about linen and the other things, but we got to wrap it up here, and we'll be back next week, and we'll just maybe start with number 1 again and go into more depth about that. And I'm going to try to address some questions throughout the shows so that I don't have to spend hours typing the answers or on the phone with them. So
yeah, and maybe people can even put them in the chat if I'm sure they've already messaged them to you, but they could even put them in the chat if they're watching it live, and we might have time to answer that next time.
Yes, but it would always be best because I got one eye and it would be always better to email me. All the information is at the bottom of remnantremedy.com. Email me your questions and I'll make a pile of questions to try to address. So anyway, I think it's time to check out. May your garments always be white and let your head lack no shimmer. Shalom.
If you missed today's show or want to watch it again or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lambnetwork.tv where you will find this show and all other live Lamb Show archives in the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell somebody about the Messianic Lamb Network.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.